Saxophone overtones. There's something you should be putting in your practice session. Today we're going to go over some of my favorite beginning, intermediate, and advanced exercises, including some ear training with the help of my colleague. Hi, and welcome to the Saxophone Academy. I'm Dr. Wally Wallace, and if you're interested in saxophone masterclasses and product reviews, please do consider subscribing and be sure to hit the like button to hear a happy honk. Maybe. Now today we're talking about overtones. This is not so much how to produce the overtones. I have 2 other videos on that subject matter, including voicing. I'll put links down below. But this is covering some of my favorite exercises that I think you should be incorporating in your daily practice. So also, good news, the 2nd edition of the Saxophone Fundamentals book is out. I'll put a link down below. It's free for everyone. It has the updates on some many new exercises we're going to be using over the course of this year, including these overtone exercises. So be sure to download your free copy. So a quick recap. Anytime we play a note, you're actually playing a series of harmonics, the lowest of which we call the fundamental, and that's the note we hear. So if we play a C, we hear the lowest harmonic, the fundamental, and we identify that as C. But there are, theoretically, an infinite number of harmonics above that, the strength of which, depending on which one, gives the tone its unique color or timbre. And it's what makes a saxophone sound like a saxophone or a clarinet sound like a clarinet. If you only had the fundamental and not those harmonics, it would sound like a computer-generated sine tone. So by using voicing, which I've talked about extensively in other videos I'll link down below, we can isolate those individual harmonics or overtones and amplify them, which to this day I find endlessly fascinating and fun to do. Now the mechanism through which we do that is called voicing, or how we shape our oral cavity. Again, I've got a couple videos on that down below. If you're not sure what that is, catch up, and then we're going to dive into some exercises. So let's start with the priming process and beginning exercises just to get us playing overtones, or perhaps you're a bit rusty and just want to get back into it. So the first priming exercise is hitting the first overtone. Now, the overtone series is fixed, and there's math involved that I don't quite understand. But anytime we play a note, the first overtone is 1 octave higher. So we're going to do overtones at first on low B flat. So instead of just aiming for that overtone, we're going to first play the naturally fingered version of that note, B flat 2, and then slur to the overtone. So take a listen to how this exercise works. So slur to the overtone several times, then pause and start right on the overtone, and voila, you're producing the first overtone, the octave above the fundamental. Now to get the second overtone, which we include in these more advanced exercises, we're going to go a fifth above that octave, which playing low B flat, that's going to be F2, or F with octave key will be the sounding note, but again, we're going to play it with low B flat. Now, instead of doing bugle calls or trying to leap to it, which I can find difficult and develop some bad habits as students start to tense and strain to get it out, I like to take a more linear approach. So here's what I recommend we do. We start with the first overtone, the octave above the low B flat, and start lifting fingers while maintaining the sound of the overtone. We're not using our octave key at all, but we're going to go slowly up until we get to the second overtone, F2. Take a listen to how this works. Now, if you're having trouble slurring to that second overtone going from E flat to F, we can do the same thing that we did in the first priming exercise. We can play that F2, F with octave key, and slur to low B flat. Make sure you take off your octave key. So we hold it, slur down, hold it, slur down, then pause, and start right on it with a breath attack. Now, once you're comfortable with that, I adore going full range overtone scales. And we have all 12 major overtone scales in the fundamentals book. Make sure you download that to give you an idea of what that sounds like. And I highly encourage you to incorporate this in your daily practice. Let's take a listen to the overtone scales. And again, I really love doing this linear approach, this more incremental climbing into the range, rather than just doing the bugle calls or the leaping from partial to partial. I find this is a good way to keep the embouchure relaxed and also show how little change it actually takes to get to those next partial. I think one of the biggest mistakes is students try to overshoot when doing the leap. Doing these scale patterns, it forces you to use a really supported breath support, and I think it shows you the subtle motions of the tongue and voicing that allows that to happen. Linear progression of overtones I find incredibly useful, and I do them daily in my own practice. Now let's dive into some leaping exercises, the more classic, what you know from some of your overtone books, like Sigurd Rascher's Top Tones. I've got a variation on this in the fundamentals book that has one little magic caveat, which I strongly encourage you to do. Take a listen once. And you can see there, it's just your classic overtone exercise, except I really encourage my students then to slur back down to the fundamental. And if that fundamental, that low B flat or low B or low C, whichever one you're doing it on, doesn't come out, then that's a great indication that something's going wrong. By being able to do the exercise with a relaxed embouchure and just changing our voicing, we can go up the partials or the overtones and then slur back down to low B flat without a drastic change to our embouchure. So it's kind of an ecology test to your overtone practice. So I highly recommend you keep slurring back to the fundamental to ensure your embouchure is staying relaxed and you're doing the work with your tongue position and your voicing. Now let's get into a couple of the more advanced exercises that these are some of my favorites that I do nearly every day because I find them highly enjoyable. But rather than reading them on the page, we're going to use some ear training. So let me tell you how this is going to work. Ollie, my colleague, is going to sing the line. He's going to sing the overtones and then we play back. So I'm not going to notate out all of the notes, but it's going to be intervals on a single fundamental. So I will give you the note of the fundamental and then try to play along and match what Ollie sings. So Ollie sings, then we repeat. Now the first example comes straight from Sigurd Rascher, Top Tones for Saxophone. You don't need it written out. You can simply need to know which fundamental and then match these intervals. I like this one very much. Take a listen, then we'll play together. Now going a bit further, let's do one that's a little bit more challenging and goes a little bit higher. This one, again, I'm not going to notate it. I'm going to simply give you this starting fundamental note and then match it using your ears. This one is called Final Jeopardy. So listen to Ollie, then we'll play it back together. So we're going to be using these exercises and incorporating them into our practice. We've got a lot of fundamentals videos coming up this year that are all going to be gleaned from our fundamentals book, so make sure you do go download that and get to work. Have fun with these exercises. Take breaks. Don't do overtone exercises for a terribly long time, or you're going to start to tense up your embouchure. And make sure you're doing the exercise where you slur back down to the fundamental. If you're a student that knows exercise 0, watch my video on that if you haven't. It's great to intersperse exercise 0, returning to that low B flat throughout your practice session. All right, have fun, play along with Ollie, and go practice.